A hot mess. I am a parent with young teenagers. Borders and spaces are communal and frequently challenged. My beliefs on music or clothing differ entirely from my daughter's. Yet we are both driven by the need to generate a view of ourselves that is homogeneous and autonomous. My children may say, "I want to look cool so my friends like what I am wearing." But really, it's because it makes them happy. I may say, "I want to look confident so my coworkers respect me." But really, it's because it makes me happy. This is the raw truth. This is unbridled honesty. Knowing what you want, why you want it, but more importantly, why you really want it, is the focus of the audience within. You become your own target audience. For several years, I grappled with maintaining a personal lifestyle blog where I wrote about me, and then more about me. 30 years ago, I guess, I would have handwritten each article starting with "Dear Diary," with threats to nosy eyes for reading my deepest, darkest secrets. The difference now is I didn't want to scare anyone off. I wanted nosy eyes to read my words. I wrote and I opined, I ranted and I seethed. My words were lashing out at every misdemeanor, fully believing this is what my readers wanted to read. Yet, even with this fire in my belly, my articles were not garnering the attention I felt they deserved. They were marvelous works of the heart. Yes, that was it. They were issues of the heart. I thought that if I wrote about my problems and irritabilities, my followers would come and sit with me on my green hilltop oasis, where we could reflect and ruminate together about our unfair and impractical lives. My emotions were untethered and were irritating more than they were inspirational. With the fire and brimstone of a social entrepreneur wannabe, I thought I knew what I was doing and created a website with all the social platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I fidgeted, edited, updated, and socialized, but I was getting nowhere except depressed, resentful, and alone on my hilltop. I wondered what was wrong with everyone. Why didn't they see this wonderful thing I was offering? Why weren't they enlightened? Why didn't they want to understand? Why didn't they understand me? I asked my friends and family what they thought about the material. They liked my words and I had their support, but I did not have their genuine interest since they didn't know what to do with the material I shoved in front of them. What I wanted them to do was proclaim that my articles were the wisest words they ever read, and it has changed their lives forever. I wanted them to invite everyone to my hilltop oasis so we could reflect on my pearls of wisdom, imperfect as they were. To be honest, I created the blog because I was unhappy, and I turned to the one thing that gave me focus and purpose. Some people color, maybe others bake, and some turn to substances as coping mechanisms when they are unhappy. But for me, I wrote. I had been doing it from the time I could put pen to paper. I wrote poetry, short stories about silly childhood crushes, to grandiose revelations. If I had an issue that needed an outlet, I wrote about it. That's the thing about coping mechanisms. They are destructive when done in private. Although mine wasn't dangerous, no one could see me reaching out, and I wanted someone to see me through my words. I shared my problems, biases, and opinions as interpretations of the wisdom of what I thought people wanted to hear. I was projecting outwards. Why would anyone really and truly want to be bombarded with look-at-me problems? I was broadcasting and not inspiring. I could educate no one from my hilltop because I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I thought I was helping people. To help people, you need to provide a solution or context of processes towards a solution. It would be a bit longer before I learned how to do that. On most days, I envision my audience within as a beast because I like attacking tasks. Sometimes it's wild and ferocious and paces the floor, menacing and impatient. Other days, it's like a jacked-up Jack Russell Terrier, leaping and zigzagging to be noticed. I channel that intensity into words that I showed the world. My frenzied thoughts may have churned up relatable emotion, but they did not provide guidance. My beast was lost and disoriented, looking for direction. That day came when I asked a graphic designer friend to critique my blog site. He reviewed it, and I held my breath. After several huhs and uh-huhs, he said, "It's simple. You don't have a call to action. People who visited the site didn't know what I expected of them. If all I showed them were my written words of sadness and failures, people would quickly leave since they had nothing to keep them there." I wasn't motivating my family and friends. They weren't curious. My words did not fuel a drive. They were listening to me, and they could easily do that over the phone. When he asked me what I expected a visitor to do on the site, I couldn't answer. I didn't know. Then he asked a different question. What did I want people to know about me? What was my end game? What did I want out of all this? Cricket, cricket. I didn't know that either. This small query opened a vast chasm of questions that led to an even greater awakening. It was a profound critique. It resurfaced a path of a forgotten destination, which was not my green hilltop oasis. I rolled those questions around for several days after that conversation, and I couldn't get any further with an answer. Those days spread into weeks. I wanted people to know about me and relate to my issues, but so what? What was so unique about me? There are a million other me's out there. Eventually, after getting dizzy with these revolving door questions, a realization crystallized. Forget the call to action for my lifestyle website. If I couldn't answer a simple question about what I wanted from my blog, then I had a broken motivating factor, or worse, did not even exist. Regardless of the attention or lack of attention my website received, if I couldn't answer a simple question about what the heck I was doing with any of this, then the issue was much more significant. My problem was well beyond the borders of my blog. How do I ask myself what I want to do for myself and not what I want to do for someone else? Isn't that the craziest question? It stumped me. If you asked me what I want my kids to do, I could give you 10 responses from how I want them to live their lives to what I want them to do within the next hour. But this wasn't about them. It wasn't about anyone that I could control or persuade. It was about the toughest critic I had ignored. I turned the tables around on myself and became the focal point for an inquisition. Why would I want to dredge out all those deep, yucky, uncomfortable feelings about stuff I didn't want to deal with? There was no time for that. I felt I had to keep going because it was about keeping all the balls up in the air all the time, right? Wrong. It had everything to do with me. I was playing ostrich. When questions got tough, I buried my head in the ground of excuses so I couldn't see the headlights that were coming at me. Sure, I've read books and practiced various exercises in the past that cow-prodded me towards being better at whatever role model I was trying to emulate. I did it from an arm's length away without letting the exercises get too complicated. As a result, when I blogged about fears and injustices, it was superficial. I was expecting trumpeters to celebrate my arrival at the gates of insight, what I have referred to as my hilltop oasis. That wouldn't be happening until I understood what I wanted. I had to ask myself tough questions, as I couldn't manage my lifestyle with my head buried in the ground. Nor could I be superficial about how I wanted to live my life from now on. I was a hot mess. Before I could help anyone resolve their issues, I realized that I needed to know what I wanted of myself first, and then why I wanted it. I needed a personal call to action. A personal call to action is like the oxygen mask in the airplane scenario. During takeoff, the flight attendants go through the motions that if the cabin pressure